Have you ever felt like you were stuck? Like no matter how hard you tried, the walls were just closing in? If so, this story is for you. It's a story about a woman named Elara, and it's a powerful reminder that our circumstances don't have to define our destiny. Elara grew up in a small, forgotten town where opportunities were as scarce as rain in a drought. Her family loved her, but love couldn't pay the bills. From a young age, she learned the harsh language of "we can't afford that." She watched her parents work tirelessly, their hands rough and their faces etched with worrying, yet they never seemed to get ahead. The dream of a different life, a life of choice and freedom, felt like a fairy tale told in a foreign land. After finishing school with no money for college, Elara took a job at the local textile factory. The days were long and monotonous. The roar of the machinery was a constant drone, a soundtrack to a life she felt she hadn't chosen. She'd come home, tired to the bone, and see the same weary look on her parents' faces that she was starting to see in her own reflection. A quiet desperation began to settle in her heart. Was this it? Was this all her life would ever be? One evening, while cleaning out her grandmother's old attic, she stumbled upon a dusty wooden box. Inside, nestled amongst old letters and faded photographs, was a small, leather-bound journal. Her grandmother's journal. As Elara turned the delicate pages, she discovered a woman she never knew. Her grandmother, who she only remembered as a quiet, gentle soul, had once been a dreamer. The pages were filled with sketches of dress designs, notes on different fabrics, and a burning passion for creating beautiful clothes. A spark ignited within Elara. She remembered sitting at her grandmother's feet as a little girl, watching her mend clothes with such skill and care. Her grandmother had taught her to sew, a skill Elara had dismissed as just a household chore. But now, holding this journal, she saw it differently. It wasn't just a chore, it was an art, it was a legacy. That night, something shifted. The quiet desperation was replaced by a tiny, flickering flame of purpose. She pulled out the old sewing machine her grandmother had left her, a machine she hadn't touched in years. It was rusty and stiff, much like her own dormant dreams. Carefully, she cleaned it, oiled it, and with a gentle whir, it came back to life. Elara started small. She began by mending her own clothes, then her parents'. She used old scraps of fabric to practice the techniques she read about in her grandmother's journal. Her fingers, once clumsy, became nimble and sure. The factory's drone was no longer the only sound in her life. It was now accompanied by the rhythmic hum of her sewing machine late into the night. Her little room transformed into a makeshift studio. She spent every spare penny on secondhand fabrics and patterns. She started creating simple pieces, a skirt, a blouse. Her first few attempts were far from perfect, with crooked seams and uneven hands. There were moments of frustration, moments she wanted to give up and accept her fate at the factory. But then she'd look at her grandmother's journal, at the passion poured onto those pages, and she would find the strength to try again. She began wearing her creations to work. At first, no one noticed. But then a coworker complimented a floral skirt she had made. Another asked where she'd bought a particularly well-fitting blouse. When Elara shyly admitted she'd made them herself, they were astonished. Soon, requests started trickling in. "Could you mend my son's jeans? Could you make a dress for me like the one you're wearing?" Each small project was a victory. With the little money she earned, she didn't buy luxuries. She bought better thread, nicer fabrics, and books on design. She devoured information, teaching herself about pattern making, draping, and color theory. Her skills grew exponentially. Her designs became more intricate, more unique. She wasn't just copying patterns anymore. She was creating from her own imagination, blending her grandmother's classic style with a modern twist. The turning point came when the town announced its annual Founders' Day festival. It was a small town affair, but this year, they added a craft market. Elara's friends and family urged her to get a stall. She was terrified. Putting her work out there for everyone to see, to judge? It felt like bearing her soul. The fear of failure was almost paralyzing. What if no one bought anything? What if they laughed? Taking a deep breath, she remembered the look in her parents' eyes, the heavy weight of their struggles. She thought of her grandmother's unfulfilled dreams. This wasn't just about sewing dresses, it was about sewing a new future. She decided to be brave. For weeks, she barely slept. Every spare moment was spent at her sewing machine. She poured all her creativity, her hope, and her heart into a small collection of dresses, skirts, and blouses. The day of the festival, her hands trembled as she set up her little stall. Her collection looked small and humble compared to the others. At first, people just walked by, but then a woman stopped. She picked up a simple, elegant blue dress, admiring the fine stitching. She tried it on and it fit her perfectly. The woman's face lit up. "It's beautiful," she said. "I'll take it." That first sale was like a dam breaking. People started to gather, drawn in by the quality and uniqueness of her work. They saw the passion woven into every seam. By the end of the day, Alar had sold nearly every single piece. She stood there, clutching a small wad of cash, more money than she had ever held in her life. But it was more than the money, it was the validation. It was the proof that her dream wasn't just a fantasy. That day changed everything. With the festival money and a small loan from a believer in the town, Alar quit her job at the factory. She rented a tiny, rundown shop on a quiet side street and named it the Weaver's Daughter, in honor of her mother and grandmother. The beginning was tough. There were days when no one came in and doubt crept back in. But Alar was relentless. She used social media to showcase her work, taking beautiful photos of her designs against the rustic backdrop of her town. She started a small blog, sharing her story, her process, and her grandmother's legacy. Her story of passion and perseverance resonated with people far beyond her small town. Orders started coming in online, first from neighboring cities, then from across the country. Her little shop became a destination. People weren't just buying a dress. They were buying a piece of her story. They were supporting a dream. Alar's life is unrecognizable from what it once was. The factory's drone is a distant memory. She now runs a thriving business, employing other women from her town, giving them the opportunities she never had. She was able to buy her parents a comfortable new house, and the look of worrying on their faces has been replaced with pride. Alar's story isn't a fairy tale. It's a testament to the power of a single spark. It shows us that you don't need a privileged start to build a beautiful life. You need to find that one thing that sets your soul on fire, even if it's buried under years of dust and doubt. It's about having the courage to try, the resilience to fail and get back up, and the grit to keep going when no one is watching. Your passion, your unique talent is your power. Don't dismiss it, nurture it, let it grow. Just like Alar, you have the ability to weave a new reality for yourself, one thread at a time. Thank you so much for watching and sharing this time with me. If this story touched you, please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more stories of inspiration and transformation. We'd love to have you as part of our community. Until next time, find your spark.